Jeff McNeely as he delves into meaningful discussions about politics, community initiatives, and the people working to make a difference. Whether it's tackling local concerns, highlighting state achievements, or addressing pressing legislative matters, this show is your go-to source for understanding how North Carolina is growing and thriving. Stay tuned as we kick off another insightful episode of Taking Care of NC.
Good morning, North Carolina. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. Glad to be back. Sorry I was gone last week. Went with my wife out to Yosemite and got to see it. I said I wanted to go maybe to California one last time before it got so crazy that I couldn't go at all. So I got that out of my system. Beautiful place, Yosemite. I suggest you go. I suggest you go now, just like I did, because you never know when you might not be able to with Governor Newsom doing all the things he is and the redistricting. And believe me, I'll send money to help build that wall if he wants to separate California from the rest of us. I'm all in on that. So, hey, got a great show today. I got the Speaker of the North Carolina House, Destin. I don't know if he's called in yet. Have you seen anything, Ron? All right, he'll be calling here soon, but I got my speaker going to call in this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about the overrides because he had a different angle than I did. I know y'all got to hear about that for the last two shows, but really a lot of amazing things went on, a lot of craziness to a point, but I feel like the Lord was at work. And so I think I got him on the line. Let's see if we can bring him in. Mr. Speaker, are you there?
I'm here, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. I hope you are.
Doing good. Thanks for having me back on.
Well, I like to try to get you on every 6-7 months or so, a couple times a year, just so people can hear my leadership and where the ship's heading and the captain is going to get us there. Appreciate all you've been doing. I know it's been a lot of hard work. We went through a lot of stressful times here at the end, but hey, tell us a little bit about how's the family life, new dads. Tell us how the boys are doing and a little bit about your personal, and then we'll jump into all the good stuff, as they say.
Well, it's been a great year so far. And, becoming speaker was not the best thing that happened to me, because the best thing was my wife and I welcomed our first child on April 15th, Henry Hall, and he was 4 months old this past Friday, and he's growing quickly, and it's been a great experience. He's doing very well. Mom's doing very well. And it's been the best thing that I've been a part of. I appreciate you asking.
Well, I tell you what, we all work hard and we all have things that we want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, it's the family that supports us so that we're able to go down there that plays such a critical role. And they don't get the recognition that they deserve in the sacrifices they make. Everybody talks about our sacrifices. Well, we make them, but they make more, in my opinion. And so I know you have to have everything working out right at home before it's ever going to get worked out right in Raleigh. And so appreciate your wife letting you come and play with us instead of playing with your son. So.
Well, she is great, very understanding, and could not do any of this without her. And she has been, as I expected, been a great mother, and is really enjoying all this as well. And no question, it's a sacrifice for all of us who serve in the General Assembly. But she, like a lot of our spouses there at the General Assembly, understand the importance of what we're doing and trying to make sure that the state has the right policies both now and in the future for our kids.
Well, and I really, one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on here was to ask, not this week, but next week, do we have to come down?
well, to be determined. Just keep your calendar open for next week, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I know we got a little work to do, and we'll get into talking about the overrides because you had a whole different view or angle than the rest of us did, and I know you saw a lot of craziness go on in many different ways. But one of the things I guess we're going to have to come back and talk about is the bill that we actually passed that joined us with the federal government to release roughly $1,700 for each person or family wanting to participate in school choice to go along with the state funding that we do. And then the governor vetoed that. and this was
Right.
federal money. I'm still trying to understand this.
So, it's important for folks to understand this was part of President Trump's big, beautiful bill. And it essentially gave a tax credit for folks up to about $1,700 per year if they make a donation to an entity that gives out scholarships for schools. And again, it's a federal issue. It doesn't cost the state anything at all. This is a federal tax credit. And it's something that Congress passed again in President Trump's big, beautiful bill recently. And so our legislation was just opting North Carolina into that, again, incentivizing folks to give scholarships. And most people think giving scholarships is a good thing if you're able to do so. And it really comes down to Republicans believe in school choice. Republicans believe that parents ought to be able to send their kids to the school that works best for that kid. Sometimes that's not simply the school district that they live in. Every kid's different. Some of them have special needs that they need addressed. And some parents feel that the public school in their area is not the best thing for their child. And so, they may want to send their child to a private school, or they may want to go to a public charter. I mean, there's many different options now. And, we've continued to expand our policies in North Carolina on school choice. Again, putting it in the hands of parents. Parents know what's best for their particular child. And that's what we've tried to support now in North Carolina. Since Republicans took the majority back in 2010, the Democrats are on the other end of that. They don't want parents to have school choice. I think that the latest example of that is, unfortunately, Governor Stein vetoing this very simple bill that didn't cost the state a dime.
Yeah.
All it did was encourage scholarships. And, to veto that, I think it just shows how hard the Democrats are fighting against school choice. And if you look at across the population of this state and this country, people overwhelmingly support school choice. Even many Democratic voters support school choice. And so I am hopeful that we're going to be able to override that veto. We had a strong bipartisan vote in support of the bill when it went through the House and the Senate before the governor vetoed it. And so I think it's one that we're going to be able to override. And it's just a common sense bill. And again, Democrats never cease to amaze me. But this one, frankly, I was a bit surprised that the governor would veto it. But that's okay. We'll take care of business and we'll get it overridden.
Well, Destin, I looked at that bill, and then when I saw him veto it, and Stein has tried to kind of play nice for a while. It's starting to wear off though. And he's starting to look more and more like Roy Cooper. And I'm afraid before it's over with, he's gonna actually make Roy Cooper look good. And you know how hard that is? That's really hard, in my opinion.
I agree with you there. And I'll say, Governor Stein has tried to make relationships with members of the General Assembly. I think he called just about all the members of the House and the Senate as he was coming into office, and in the first few months of being in office. And he's been in touch with me quite a bit. Been in touch, I know, with Senator Berger, and that's a contrast to Governor Cooper, who rarely spoke to members of the legislature. And so, I was optimistic and hopeful that we would be able to reach compromise on at least some things. But thus far, the last few bills we've dealt with and had to override, I've been disappointed. This latest one that we have, the school choice bill, being vetoed as an example. The bill that we did about making sheriffs cooperate with ICE when they have arrested somebody for a serious crime who also turns out to be an illegal alien. Almost every sheriff in our state voluntarily does this anyway. There's only now a handful, maybe 3, 4, 5
usual
who are
suspects
still not cooperating. And that, again, is a no-brainer issue. It's something even Democratic voters, majority of them agree with. And I was hopeful that Stein would not veto that one, and unfortunately he did. And so really it comes down to the policies. And, I certainly appreciate his attempts to make relationships with legislators over the course of his tenure as governor. But at the end of the day, it's about getting policy done. And look, everybody understands that serving in the legislature it's about reaching the reasonable compromise, finding the right policy with people who have different opinions. And I think some of these things are examples of no-brainer, really good policy issues that the Democrats and Governor Stein are fighting us on. And so, at the end of the day, we're going to do what we need to do. We've got 71 Republicans, which means we only need one Democrat to override. And on most issues, we're able to find at least one Democrat to vote with us on those things. So we're going to stay the course, no matter where the governor's at on these things, and we'll continue to enact good policy for the state.
Well, speaking of that, and we'll talk a little bit about the overrides that we did, the 8 that we did. You had a personal call from the governor the night before, trying to, I guess, feeling sorry for you that you wasn't going to succeed and throwing you a bone, kind of. What did go down? Can you tell us a little bit about that conversation? Because I found it to be very interesting.
Well, I'll start by saying, I'll respect some confidence of conversation with the governor, but I will say that, of course, he has a different opinion on a lot of these bills. And I imagine a lot of the Democratic members of the General Assembly maybe were saying, that they were indicating they were not going to vote for overrides. And this is the way our government works. You have to compromise, you have to talk to members, you have to build relationships, and ultimately you've got to get the votes. And for us, we need 72 yes votes to override a veto. We have 71 Republicans. So on any given issue, we've got to find at least one Democrat, if everybody's present, and to vote with us. And so I was confident that on most of those bills that have been vetoed, that we were going to have at least one Democrat to be able to override. I would say that the governor probably did not feel the same way in terms of our likelihood of success. And so I'm thankful that we were able to ultimately go in and get most of those overridden.
I guess my real question is, did he call you back afterwards and say, I guess you were right and I was wrong? I don't think you heard that call, did you? You didn't get that.
We've not had the follow-up conversation on that one yet, but I imagine we will. And again, not throwing him under the bus, he's doing what, in his opinion, he thinks is best. And, he's trying to get his votes, and I've got to try to get mine. And
that's right.
At the end of the day, that's how our government works.
It is. But yeah, from what I could tell, he was pretty sure he was going to be fine. And he had a funny look on his face at the press conference the day or two after when he wasn't. But anyway, such is life. Well, all right. Tell me this, House Bill 805, that I like to call it the morality bill, because it's about morals and what's right and what's wrong and what's common sense. Really, it involved two genders. It involved private spaces for women, no matter whatever somebody says they are. It goes back to their biological presence of gender, to allow women to have their privacies. A lot of different stuff, pornography and unfit material in school libraries, stuff like that, very age appropriate or inappropriate stuff. And so that one, it always gets tricky. And we thought we had our votes, and then we didn't. Tell us a little, because you saw stuff going on that none of the rest of us saw.
So, House Bill 805 is a bill that it changed in various ways as it went through the General Assembly. And where it wound up was a bill that dealt with a lot of the things you mentioned. One of the simplest things in there just defined what a man is and what a woman is. And, a biological man is a biological man, biological woman is a woman. And so, we think that's common sense, of course, and it really shouldn't have to be in law. But unfortunately, many Democrats appear to be confused these days about what a man is and what a woman is. And so we had that in the bill to make that clear that in our law that it's based upon the science of biological sex. And unfortunately, you had Democrats who opposed, again, what I think is a common sense bill. And of course, the governor vetoed that. And, it's one where, a lot of the left wing groups coming in and trying to put pressure on Democrats to vote against it. But it's just common sense. And it goes back to we all have voters who we represent. We've got constituents, and we've got to consider their opinions on these things. And if you look at it, it's just something that overwhelmingly people of this state agree with, even in Democratic districts. And so, it's one where those issues can get contentious for whatever reason. It's just like talking about men playing women's sports. Again, common sense. Yeah, men ought to play men's sports.
Mm-hmm.
They shouldn't be on the women's basketball team.
That's right.
And we think that's common sense. And I think overwhelmingly voters think that as well. But unfortunately, some elected Democrats, and I would say most of them, don't agree with that simple principle. And so, that was one where as we went into the veto overrides, of course, I'm working the votes, talking to members, knowing I've got to get somebody to cross over. And we'll just say that, that was one that came down to the wire. And ultimately, we got it by one vote. We had one Democrat vote with us on that override. And, it's kind of like the secret sauce, Jeff. I don't know how much I want to say about the secret sauce. It's almost like a trade secret as to, how we go about, getting these votes. And, there's somewhat of an art to it. It's not a science, but it's a relationship a service. I mean, you get there, you've got to know members on the other side. We work with them on various different things. And it's just a matter of knowing which members to talk to about which issues and understanding, their districts and their constituents. And look, there's some districts where, members I wouldn't even approach to even request a vote for certain things. But this is one where there was a lot of opportunity there, I think, for Democratic members to vote in favor of it. And somewhat disappointed there was only one who voted in favor. But, I someday later on, I may write a book and disclose, how we go about who we talk to and what we try to do to get votes. But that time is not now, other than to say I'm happy we got it done.
Well, and you may have known that Muhammad Majid was gonna vote with us. I don't think none of the rest of us did, because I know we all took pictures, of the vote once it was actually shown, and we're going through it, going, who was it? Who voted with us? Because he's not been one that has necessarily come over on a lot of issues, or hardly any issues with us. But he did that one. And I've told a lot of people, I feel like the Lord was at work that day in many ways. And he found a Muslim to come vote with us on morality. And I've gone back and also said, sadly, Muslims are more convicted with their morals a lot of times than Christians are. I mean, I can show you that. And so he uses any and all to get his work done, because I feel like, to me, that it's not a religious bill, but it is biblical to me, some of the stuff that's in that bill, because it's common sense stuff that's been passed on from generation to generation through the history of man almost. And now we're wanting to change the history of man and say, oh, it's okay for the man to say he's a woman and go into the women's locker room. That's never been appropriate ever before. Why now? So he uses any and all for his work. And I truly believe that the Lord was about our day that day.
Yeah, every member has their personal convictions that they bring to the table when they're deciding how to vote. Again, this is one where I think that it's just a common sense provision. Everything in the bill really is common sense. And so happy we got it done. And, if we're putting a veto override bill up for a vote, it's typically because I'm confident that we have the votes to do that. And thankfully, that was the case here.
Yeah. And I had to do a little filibuster at the very beginning. When you called on my bill the very first thing of the day, I thought, oh, well, this is a great honor. I didn't realize we were in a jam until I walked up and talked to you.
Well, members have to, get there to the building, and sometimes folks get caught in traffic and things happen that hold them up. And so, when we're talking about really tight votes like this, we've got to be sure, we've got to be precise in the vote count. And so, thankfully, you were able to give a few words on the floor while we arranged to have the right vote count. So appreciate your assistance.
Anytime. Yeah, like Brendan, you're going to go stall them. I said, oh, crap. So anyway, people, I sat down and I bet I had probably a dozen texts from people saying, "Shut up, sit down, let's vote." Nobody really knew what was going on. Tell you the truth, except for even I saw Dennis Riddell this past week, and I was telling that story to some of them in the Senate, and Dennis was standing there. He goes, "So that's why you talk so long." I didn't. I wondered why you kept talking and wouldn't shut up. I said, "Yep." There was some method to my madness. So anyway, all right. Well, hey, we've got about 7 minutes left, and I guess what I want to talk about here in this last part, and I know you can't tell everything because y'all were in negotiations, but we did a stopgap bill, a keep the lights on type kind of thing. It was a little more than that because it had some ag stuff in there that I really appreciate. 142 million, and that's wonderful. It'll help a lot of my guys who just got their butt kicked last year because of the drought, and it went from one side of the state to the other. It wasn't a western thing or an eastern thing. It was a North Carolina thing, and it was a bad thing. So I appreciate that being in there. And then there was a little bit of stuff in there, some help on some teacher stuff with education, but a lot of it was just doing the things that we had to do. What are you feeling? You're working with the other corner office in the Senate. Will we get a shot at a big budget, you think, or it's just too early to tell?
Well, I'm optimistic that eventually, we'll reach a comprehensive budget deal. In the meantime, what we've been doing is dealing with some of the things that are really not in contention, some stuff that it's really tune-up type things that we need to do every year. If you think about it, every year the populations in the various school districts across the state will change. And so we've got to change with that. And we call that the school funding allotment. And so, part of what we did in this stopgap budget was make sure we fund those areas that maybe had an increased student population. They've got to have the funds to operate their schools. So we did that. There's some various issues in healthcare where, we have to constantly monitor that, make sure that the funding is there. So we've dealt with that issue now to get us through up through the short session, when I hope that we'll continue to have these discussions and hopefully get a comprehensive budget done sometime between now and the end of the short session. But really, the debate comes down to one where, Republicans have been in control now in North Carolina for about 15 years. And over the course of the time, you've seen the state grow tremendously. You've seen the economy get better. You've seen the rule of law implemented, doing away with these woke policies that a handful of left-wing local government officials have tried to push. And, we've really tamped down on that. And so, now we're sort of in a season of governing, making sure we keep the ship moving in the right direction. And part of that for us is, we have continued to be fiscally conservative in our budgets. We've continued to make sure we're not doing wasteful spending in state government. And so our budgets have reflected that year after year. We've also delivered tremendous tax relief to the citizens of our state. When Republicans started, when they won in 2010 and got the majority, you had a tax rate, a top rate of almost 8% or so. You had a graduated tax scale, and you had various taxes all across state government that really constrained growth. And so we did away with all that. And you've seen tax cut after tax cut, and we're now down to going to 3.99, and it's a flat income tax, meaning everybody pays the same. If you're a low income person, you have the standard deduction, so you're not even paying that tax. And so where we are now is trying to sort out what's the right balance for North Carolina. And, in my opinion, and I think our caucus's opinion, we want to have the best tax climate in the South. And I think we're there right now. And it's something that we always have to continue to monitor. Other states are competing with us for jobs, places like Tennessee and South Carolina. And somebody might say, well, Tennessee has no income tax. And the difference is, they've got a different sort of sales tax. They've got a different property tax. And the advantage that we have in North Carolina is it's twofold. We have a great tax policy as it currently stands, but we also have a world-class university system in the UNC system and all the institutions of that system. We've got a world-class community college system and a world-class K-12 education system in North Carolina. And that's what's drawing these employers to our state. It's both the low tax environment, the low regulatory environment, doing away with unnecessary and burdensome regulations, and also investing in our UNC system because they produce folks who can come out and go to work for these companies that are moving to North Carolina and continue to grow our economy. And so, the Senate has a tax plan that we think we don't necessarily need at this stage. We think we are the most competitive state in the South on taxes. Again, constantly want to monitor that. Always, you can't rest on your laurels. But we want to have the balance of making sure we've got the right tax policy and still have the ability to invest in what separates North Carolina. And again, it's that education system at the end of the day, in particular, the UNC system, the community college system, that really separates us for when companies are thinking about coming here. I hear from Commerce, the state agency, Commerce, quite a bit, hear from companies who are wanting to move here. And everything that they always tell me, the thing that's most appealing to them about North Carolina, we've already got a great tax environment. It's a beautiful state, mountains and beaches. But the thing that separates us from other states, again, is that the people of this state, our most important asset, that workforce that we have, an educated workforce because of our great education system. And we can't do anything that's going to jeopardize that. And we've got to have the funds to invest in that system. And the House budget does that. The House budget continues to cut taxes.
Amen.
And it continues to invest in those key assets of our state. It invests in the working man and woman of North Carolina. We followed President Trump's no tax on tips policy in the House budget, and continue to have the right balanced policies. And so that's what we want to do. And I think that most folks who look at it think that that's the way to go. And so, we've had budget disagreements in the past between the House and the Senate. We've always been able to work those out. I'm confident we'll be able to do that here. But, these are big issues. They matter a lot to the folks of the state. And I think that it makes sense to take the time to get it right. You always want to get a budget done as quickly as you can, but you don't want to do that at the expense of having the wrong policy. And so, our caucus is willing to be deliberative and take the time necessary to get the right policy. So that's where we stand now. And again, I'm optimistic that ultimately we'll get it done.
Well, I hope we do. I hate mini budgets. I always tell everybody when you do mini budgets, it's like fighting the baddest man in town a dozen times instead of once. I just soon fight him once. And so that's where we're at. So, hey, Destin, I appreciate you coming on the show. It goes quick, man. It gets done quick. So appreciate you. We'll try to have you back here maybe near the end of the year, first of the year, or unless something big happens. And thank you, and take care of that boy and that wife. And hope to see you soon.
Will do. Thanks, Jeff.
Take care, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks, hang tight with us. We'll be back with the second half of the show here in a little bit. And call in and tell us what you think.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
We all want more for North Carolina. More boundless views, more adventures in the outdoors, and more clean roads to get there. But to get more, we have to do less. Less littering, that is. Make it your nature to trash your trash and keep NC clean. And we'll all have more reasons to love North Carolina. Litter less, get more. For more on the 7 outdoor NC Leave No Trace principles, visit OutdoorNC.com. Sponsored by the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters and Visit North Carolina, a part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina in cooperation with this station.
We all play a role in keeping our community safe.
Every day, we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good, others not so much.
But that's life.
It's when something doesn't seem quite right
that it's time to pay attention.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Bravo, Brenda. You've always been a saver. Price matching your price matches. The self-proclaimed queen of extreme couponing. But this time, you've truly outdone yourself. By saving for this electric vehicle, you're locking in up to $1,000 a year in fuel and maintenance savings, which will leave you saying, cha-ching, every time you unplug. Good for your wallet, great for the planet. That's the power of EV. Sponsored by the NC Clean Energy Technology Center and the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters in cooperation with this station.
All right, back here with the second half of the show. Got a lot to talk about. Been gone a couple weeks, so just full of stuff. And no, it ain't what you think I'm full of. I'm full of good stuff. Anyway, so 704-873-9929. Give us a call. Let us know what you got on your mind. We'd love to hear from you. Going to talk a little bit about the budget that we got done, the keep the lights on, stopgap. There's a couple different words for it, but one of the biggest things about it is we were able to get, and we've been trying, and I always tell everybody this is government negotiation 101. The House had put forth a bill that had about 380 million for disaster drought relief for the farmers, and then the Senate come back with 250 million. 250 million. And then we went and beat it out and negotiated it and it ended up at 142 million. I know that's not between the two figures, but that's what we were able to get from our budget chairs and where we're at. Because, you know, this money also come out of the rainy day fund pretty much to a point, or that same pot. So, and there's only so much there with Helene, but like I said, the drought affected everybody. But hopefully here in the next 30, 60 days, some farmers will see some checks in the mail from the state of North Carolina. I think we have a caller, so we'll see who we got here and we'll take him. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got? Oh, did we lose them? Well, maybe they'll call back. Anyway, so some other stuff we did too in there. Allocated 75 million for community college, their enrollment growth. We're starting to see a big spike here in the last year or two in community college. And I think this is all leading up to COVID. A lot of people, I think, made ideas during COVID to career changes and stuff like that. So that's happened. But our state's growing too. And the cost of regular college is just so dadgum expensive. It's crazy. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, I can do 2 years of community college and then transfer to a 4-year in our UNC system. And when I graduate, my diploma says NC State. It doesn't say Mitchell via NC State. It says NC State. And I think that's a smart play for a lot of kids. I would recommend it because getting out of school carrying $100,000 or $200,000 worth of debt in the environment that we are now in with inflation is crazy. It's crazy. And I'm sure a lot of people out there with their arts literature degree are arguing against me, but it's true. I tell you, you need to make sure that you can make a living with the degree and the debt you carry out. So in that case, let's try to make sure we have as little bit of debt as possible. And this is one of the ways we'll do it. Also, we done stuff with the adjustment on K-12. We also improved the school nutrition access. So because of the big, beautiful bill, we came in and provided free school meals. So that's still there. Allocated 10 more million to indigent defense services for private assigned counsel. So strengthen public safety and funds for our National Guard readiness centers. I think that's really important, especially with when we see the storms we've had and the aftermath of them. The National Guard does play a part in all this. And so spending money there, I think, was a good idea. Get my little slide to work here. Believe it or not as many was in the House budget, but right now we were able to agree to do 61 new driver's license examiners. And no, that's not one per county, but that's 61 more than we had. So they're going to be spread out all over and where in the highest populations. And there's some counties that there's some wait time, but nothing like some of the more populated counties. I would tell you my secrets of where people call me up and say, "Hey, I need to get on the DMV. Where do I need to go, Jeff? You're chair on transportation." And there's a couple places I recommend. You're still going to have to call me. I'm just not going to give away all my information for free, folks. Well, I will do it for free, but I'm not going to do it on the air. I like to talk to people. So, but this will help, and it will set up a couple extra offices in a couple of the larger counties too. I'm telling you, if you're in Mecklenburg, you could easily get a master's degree quicker than you could your driver's license renewed.
So that means I can call you whenever I'm trying to get that done next year, right?
Give me a
And find
call.
out- find
Give
out
me a
where it's at.
call. By next year, it's going to be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to renew in June. So
We hope. We hope. Make sure biggest thing, folks, make sure you take your documentation because you'll want to get the real ID and you'll have to be able to take a little bit more with you than your old driver's license. So make sure. And also know this, if you have a passport, you do not have to necessarily have to have the real ID right now. You can take a passport and your driver's license or just a passport and fly with it. So it's not like you've got to run and crowd the DMV to get this new ID. If you have a passport, you're fine. Sadly, you can get your passport probably faster than you can get an appointment at the DMV right now. But we're hoping that's going to change. We're hoping that's going to change. And some of the other stuff we did was we also put about 50 million more into broadband infrastructure. And a lot of it's going to be repairing some of our infrastructure that we had already started, sadly, up in the mountains where Helene just destroyed some of the efforts that we'd already put forth and money we had spent in our western counties. So we're having to go back and redo a lot of that over again. So that makes things a little tougher. And so, uh, like I said, not a huge budget here to stopgap, but it's going to get us a little bit farther down the road till we can agree. I wanted to ask Destin when I had him on there that, does anybody want to know? I wanted to ask Destin.
Yep.
Ta-da! I got him now.
As soon as you said
But
that.
let me finish this and we'll get him. Does Phil Berger need a budget to run in his primary against Sam Page? I don't know. I think he does, but I'm not the greatest politician in the world, so maybe I'm just dumb. But we'll see. But I think he needs one. Let's take a call and see what we got. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
Yes, sir. You got Mr. Williams that lives in Marion, North Carolina.
How's the weather up there? I hope it's a smidge cooler than it is down here.
Oh, it's just wonderful.
All right.
I mean, it's a little bit warm, but it's okay.
Well, good deal. Good deal.
Listen, I have a question about the DMV.
Yes, sir.
I know what things is overloaded, but what gets to me, I'm crippled. I'm handicapped,
Yeah.
and I surely hope they don't hold that against me.
Well, they should.
Because I'm on crutches. And what gets to me, Jeff, these Spanish Americans can come in here and get driver license and can't speak English.
Yes, sir.
So if they can't speak English, how they gonna know what the road signs mean? And that really upsets me because I used to work at Broad Hill, and there was Mexicans in there that couldn't speak English or and could get their driver license. And when they're kindly, from what I understand, is kindly holding against people that's kindly handicapped.
Well, I haven't heard anybody discriminating against the handicap as long as they're physically able to drive. I will tell you this, a couple things. One, North Carolina and Nevada are, in my opinion, two of the easiest states to get a driver's license. Now, that can be good or that can be bad. There was a bill put forth, and I pushed it really hard. And it's kind of still stuck in committee. A lot of people said it was, I ain't gonna tell you they said it was racist, but they felt like it wasn't fair, was their line. But basically it said, if you come to North Carolina and you've never had a driver's license in any other state in the United States, you will have to take basically a driver's ed training course. Not one at the schools, This will be one of the ones where the schools offer it. There's quite a few schools out there. You will have to take that to acquire your license. So if you come from Europe or Africa or whether it be south of our border or whatever, and you've never had a driver's license in the United States, even though you may not even be a citizen, you'll have to take this driving course. And I think
Yes.
I think that's a really good idea. But I had all kind of people on the left tell me that, you know, I was racist for this and I was all these different things, you
Oh,
know.
no, sir, you're not. I listen to you every time you come on the radio, and I think you're doing a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But, you know, they were just all up in arms. And I'm saying, I don't care what you look like. I care whether you know which side of the road to drive on. And if you know how to read the signs and can, you know, operate a vehicle. Because last time I checked, my car was all in English too. You know, there wasn't two dual languages printed on it. So do you even know how to operate the car? And you know, maybe I am being typecasting or stereo typing or whatever, but I constantly see people and stuck in that left lane going 60 mile an hour and a 70 mile an hour speed limit. And I come by them and they seem to be, you know, maybe of a certain ethnicity or whatever. I really don't know they understand what the left lane versus the right lane means. To me, you're only in the left
yes,
lane
sir,
to pass.
I've heard of that. But you know, I've been handicapped quite a few years, at least 20 years of my life. I got hurt, and
I'm sorry.
And I just don't want them to hold against me because I'm on crutches.
Well, if you
but
think
I
that's
drive,
true,
I can drive just.
Yeah,
I drive just as good as anybody.
That's right.
You know, but just to walk good, I have to be on crutches.
Yeah. Well, if you
And
think
that's
that's
my
happening, if you think you're being discriminated at the DMV, you let me know. You let me know. I'll take care of that for you because that ain't going to happen. If you're able to drive and you've been driving and you have a driver license and you can pass the test and you can read in English, then I think you got a right to drive. Now, but always remember,
Well,
it
yes,
is
sir,
a
I
right.
appreciate
It is a
that.
right. So you let me know if that's happening. Now, as far as you having to stand outside on them crutches for a couple hours, I feel sorry for you for that because I can't really do much about that, but we're trying. We're trying.
Yes, sir. I understand that. I really do, and I think you're doing a great job. But what I'm saying is, I can't stand at that door for 2 or 3 hours.
Well, I'll tell
It's
you
just
what.
impossible.
I got you. I'll tell you what. If you'll go and tell the examiner, you know, that you're in a certain position in line, but you're going to have to wait in your car because of your handicap, I'm sure they will work with you and do that. If they don't, let me know that too. Let me know that also.
Okay, well, I appreciate what you're doing. It really means a lot because I listen to you every time you come on the radio.
Well, you're very
And
welcome.
What you're doing is a great job.
Thank you, sir. If I can help you any way, you let me know. I don't care whether you're in my district or whatever. If you're a North Carolinian, I'm a North Carolinian, I'm helping you.
Okay, well, I am. I live in the foothills.
That's a beautiful place
I live
up there.
in North Carolina.
Beautiful place.
We're not too far apart.
No, we ain't. No, we ain't. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Let me know if I can help. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. Hey, getting back real quick, we finished up kind of talking about the budget. Anybody else wants to give a call? Like I said, 704-873-9929. Love to hear from you. Love to hear what's going on out there. DMV has been a mess. We have done an audit on it, and we've got a sort of some conclusions of what's happening. And some of this seems to be a repetitive problem we've seen over and over, and some of it has to do with how management is going about doing their job and how it's trickling down to the examiners. And so we're trying to change the culture, as they say, and that's a slow process, very slow process. A little bit real quick, like I said, we voted on a bill for the federal government. There was $1,700 worth of tax credit involved there. See us trying to override that because to me, that puts North Carolina at a disadvantage to other states that are going to be able to acquire it. So I just, like I said, I have a hard time paying on the deficit that we'll have to pay and we'll pay for other people. Now that's a horrible idea. I just assume they not give it to nobody if we're not all going to be able to participate. And so our governor vetoing us of that, I feel like it's crazy. And I don't understand his logic in it myself at all. But, you know, he's on a certain different level than I am as far as what he thinks is right. And I'm pretty sure what I think is right. or know to be right. So we'll see. But I feel like to me that's a kind of a nonpartisan issue, that the money's out there and that our people deserve it as much as people that live in Michigan, California, wherever they may take it, Texas, Florida, wherever. So I feel like we're going to have uh, I feel like we're going to have quite a few Democrats come with us to be able to override that. We just got to figure out our day and time. Well, Trump met with Putin over the weekend in Alaska, and it was an interesting couple days there. I don't think nothing really earth-shattering come out of it. They had hoped for a ceasefire. I wish they would have got a ceasefire. We're talking about the human lives they're being lost every second over in Ukraine, so that's tough. Maybe they come to an agreement. I do feel like that Putin's going to ask for the land he occupies and more land. And I will tell you this, and me and my wife are talking about it. Not saying any of this is right or what they should do, but Putin's mind, I believe, is that he wants to reunite the former USSR, United Soviet States of Russia, and so I think he believes that anytime he gets enough money, and how he gets his money is by selling energy, whether it be natural gas or oil, that he takes that money and he puts it into his military and they go and invade and expand. So anytime you do things to upset the price of oil or energy, you put money in his pocket to invade. And that's exactly what we saw happen whenever we came in and stopped all the drilling leases, when Biden stopped all the different things. All that created the ability for Putin to be able to go ahead and attack Ukraine. Now, yeah, he was getting ready, but an army doesn't run on just hopes and dreams. It runs on money. It runs on money to fund all the different things it takes, and it's expensive, incredibly expensive. Look at the amount of money that we've pumped into the war. So I know they pumped in an ungodly amount, and he can do that. And usually it's around that 75 to $80 a barrel mark. Once he gets over that, he's running pretty good. He's got money to burn, as they say. And so we've got to understand that. I think Trump does. And so making sure that we keep our fuel and our energy costs not only great for American economy, but it actually provides world security in a lot of different ways. So you got to think about these things. And I think what's going to end up happening, and know this, when Ukraine split apart from the former Soviet Union, it took a large part of their food, the breadbasket. And when you're a communist country like they are, one of the things you use as leverage on the people that I say you have in captive is how they get fed, or if they get fed, or if they can afford to be fed. And so he's really wanting to make sure that he gets his breadbasket back so that he can feed. Now, the crazy thing is we see this right now in our country with people with the socialistic ideas of socialism. Folks, you know what socialism is? It's the precursor to communism. And the reason it's the precursor is socialism still when everybody has some money. Eventually it runs out. And there's an old saying, socialism works great as long as the other guy's money doesn't run out. And that's exactly right. And when it does run out, then communism steps in. And what communism, the difference is when you agree to give your money and property and everything you own to other people, communism is we're taking it and we're going to divide it. And so then it becomes forced socialism, whether you want to participate or not, you will. And one of the ways they do that very first thing is disarm the public. That's why the Second Amendment is so important. We have what I consider to be a communist. He'll say he's a socialist in Mondami running for the New York mayor's position. Y'all, this experiment is played out all over the world time and time again, and it has been misery. But yet, some reason or another, the Democratic Party seems to embrace socialism. I want you to remember that come 26 when you step in the poll booth. It'll eventually be communism because eventually people will not want to adhere to this. So, anyway, now that I've gave you your, I guess, civics lesson for the day, basically on world politics and how that works, we'll see what happens with Putin. I don't trust him, and I don't feel like Donald Trump trusts him either. I don't think nobody trusts him. But do know this, he will not always be the dictator of Russia. If some land doesn't make it back into Ukraine's possession, someday I believe it will. So the question is, do you keep killing or do you go ahead and try to figure it out for now and play the long game and eventually get it back? It was once in Russia. Now it's not. It may be back for a while, but I believe it will separate itself again, no matter what. So the question is, are you willing to have that many people die till you figure this out? I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Um, Puzzled about prices escalating right now, and they're not really doing it, and it's just really throwing the economist into a jam. Of course, we had a lot of comments say that we was going to see a real recession with Biden. Well, we kind of did, but it was a supply, and they pumped so much money in the economy, it never could really falter, but it raised our inflation not crazy. But here's the question. I've been watching about 10 million different polls come out telling us all this stuff about consumer confidence and it's lacking and this and that, and they're worried and this, that, and the other. I haven't been sent an email. I haven't received a call. I haven't participated in any of these polls. I'd be curious if anybody in this listening audience has been polled. So if you have, whether you're Democrat or Republican or unaffiliated, whatever, shoot us an email. Call us right now, 704-873-9929. What poll did you participate in? Did it get published? I don't know where they're getting their people from. I don't know where they're getting their facts from. I ain't sure they are. Sometimes it's just really great to talk about something, isn't it, when you're in academia? So I'm just wondering.
Sometimes I wonder if they make up the numbers.
Well, I saw what University of Michigan had a poll. Did they just call everybody in Michigan?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, the last time I ever got called on any kind of a poll was back in the 20. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure I got it right. In the 2020 election with Cooper. That was the last time I got polled was with Cooper and Dan Forrest. That was it. That was the last time,
Yeah.
So I mean, you just don't get, and that was Meredith College. So, and that was one of the first times I'd ever got called. And I'm not saying I'm one you got to call, but you'd think with as many polls out there, somewhere or another, one would stumble across me.
Yeah.
I've got
hear about it at least.
I've got 4 different email accounts, and I run a business, and I'm an elected official, statewide, state elected official. And so you'd think you'd hear something. Somebody'd want to know something.
Is there a do not poll list maybe that you got put on?
Maybe I blocked them or they blocked me. They probably don't want me in their poll. I will not give the results. It looks like most of them are kicking out there. So far, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. So just curious. All right, folks. So we're getting down kind of towards the end here. The Trump administration has dropped the hammer, in my opinion, in the nation's capital, and the left are losing their mind. And guess what? It's working. And I don't know about y'all, but I have to make a couple trips a year to DC. And I used to enjoy it. I always thought it was kind of a cool town, and you see all kind of people out that, oh, there's so-and-so. I got a call. It's going to have to be a quickie because I got to do my crazy as it gets. Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely. Who we got?
This is Jesse, man.
Hey, Jesse. Can't talk too long because we're about out of time.
I just want to maybe open your eyes. You ever got in an airplane and flew over a forest and looked down at the trees, the green leaves on it and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, you ever notice how it looks like a mirror? It's literally like a glass. It's like the top of a forest is like glass when you're looking down on it. You swear up and down it is water.
I've seen that. Yeah.
So why are they spraying this stuff to reflect sunlight? How about let's plant some trees, let's grow some trees, and get rid of this dumb lie about trying to reflect sunlight back out into the atmosphere.
I'll say this quick, then we got to bolt off. I went to Yosemite. First day there, chemtrails everywhere. The next 2 days, clearest blue skies you ever saw.
They've been spraying for 4 weeks here, Jeff. I've seen it. I've learned them on their own radar, and and I was feeling good until that happened. I mean, and it's just like every morning, man. It's awful. Whenever we had that discussion last time, the guys swore them down, called in and said, no, they're not doing it. Well, we know they are now.
I know. I mean, we all do.
So what have we done about it?
Well, that's a good question. My bill saw that we had. Hey, let me jump off and finish here, and I'll give you a call when we get done.
I'll tell you, it's got people sick, Jeff.
I know.
Have a good one, bud.
All right, see you, brother. All right. I always like to do this segment here, and I don't want to run out of time on it, but crazy as it gets, y'all. Right now, California has implemented a new grading system, and an A out there is from 100 to 84, and a B is 83 to 64. These would be like your test scores, and a C is 63 to 44, and a D is 43 to 24, and then a F is 23 to 0. Now, the problem I got is a C is 63 to 44. And this reminds me of one time when I had a big test at NC State, and I studied and studied, and my mom knew I was worried about it. It was a physics test. And so I took the test, and she called me like, that night, kind of late. How did you do on your test? Mom, I don't know. She called the next day. How did you do on test? I don't know. 2 days later, I got my test score. She said, how you do? I said, I made an 87. And she says, oh, thank you. I had prayed and prayed. My prayers have been answered. I didn't have the heart to tell her that was out of 200. But right now, it would have been a C. It would have been a C. It was a tough test, folks. I'm just telling you. It was a tough test. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. You got California. And my question is, how does this work? And how are you going to be able to compare GPAs and stuff with other states? And how do you do college admissions? And, we dumbed down the SAT decades ago. Yeah. I took it when it was the real thing, before they had Diet Coke. I took full Coke. And it was hard. It was hard. I scored fairly decent. I scored right around 1,100. I thought that back in the day, always make sure I tell everybody that was the real SAT. I made 1,100 on, So 1080, I think, is one, and I had one at 1120. So I always say about 1,100 on average. Took it twice. And so, but then we changed that. So we made that a little easier, so kids now, you hear them, oh yeah, well, then they pump the points up because they put an essay part to it. And I think now you can score like 2,400 on it for a perfect score or something. It's like 800, 800, and 800. So, but that's fine. That's fine. But pretty soon, are we just going to go to pass or fail? Is that what we're going to do? So that makes it easier to move kids along. That's what we're doing here. That's what I see is happening in California. We're not going to make a better student. We're going to give away more participation trophies.
That's dumbing down.
That is. It's sad. I mean, so an 84. That's just a B. That ain't even a B plus.
Right.
That's just a B. That's just a B in every scale I ever saw. Now that's an A. And so maybe this is just certain districts out there, but this is what has been put out that we're seeing. And so I'm struggling. But hey, it's California. What'd you expect? They do have a beautiful park in Yosemite. I'll give them that. Let's go ahead and say a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, it's a crazy world that we live in, and you're in control. And so I feel good about that, but I worry about so much other. And Lord, I just pray you ease my worries. And I pray, Lord, you give us common sense to handle and do the things that we need to do, especially if we're elected, Lord, to understand that we need to achieve, we need to become better, more like you, Jesus. So we should not go down, but we should push to strive up. I pray you be with us all. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. Folks, until next week, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Taking Care of NC. We hope today's program offered valuable insights into the topics shaping North Carolina's future. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us next time as we continue exploring the issues that matter most to our state. Until then, take care, and thank you for being a part of the conversation.
92.9 W225BD, Statesville.
WAME and Bunce Johnson Funeral Home are proud to present our